ways to promote the growth of Tigres in English through analysis, discussions, interviews, and more. Welcome to the La U Times podcast. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to La U Times, the podcast where we talk about Tigres in English. All things Tigres, men and women. And we're here on the 20th of January as we are really fully in the season now. 2 games in for the men, about 3 or 4 for the girls, some transfer activity. We have a lot to get to tonight. We're a little bit undermanned. Got our 2 of our regulars out. So I'm Dennis, QB2, as we have named myself here on the show. The other people have anyway. So I'm hosting tonight for Arnoldo because he couldn't make it. We're also missing our friend Lou, but we're not missing my fellow friend here in the DFW area, Edgar, aka Double L Nation. What's going on?
What's up, guys? Glad to be back with you. Just trying to stay warm.
Yes, trying to stay warm because it is cold, but it's only cold here because unlike here, there's no precipitation. Can't say the same about our friend Alfred down at the H because there is some freezing rain or some other stuff going on, as you can tell if you're watching on stream. How's it going, my friend? And are you keeping yourself warm? It looks like
Just
you are.
Trying to survive, man. Trying to survive. No, all kidding aside, we're good. We're good.
I love it. I love it. Hey, if you're watching live with us right now on Twitter and on YouTube, thanks for being here. Flood the chat. We want to see everybody hang out in the chat if you're here. Drop your takes, drop your comments on what we talk about. And if you're listening on podcast later, don't forget to share and subscribe wherever you're listening to. Tonight, the sponsors are back. I'm going basic tonight, though. Ozarka is my go-to, like, bottled water, just because I think spring water is better. So, shout out Ozarka. It's more like a shout out than it is a sponsor. If you're watching on stream, I do want to shout out these 2 for their headgear selections. Alfred is wearing like the retro throwback hat that just dropped for New Era, and then Edgar is wearing this like really cool like kind of corduroy sort of situation with the modernized U. If you're like, I want to get those, where do I get them? Tigre Tienda. I mean, where else are you gonna go to get most of your stuff? So,
And we're also sporting the hoodies.
yes. Yeah, I didn't get the memo. I like I said, I just came straight from work and the grocery store. I'm just here. I'm just trying to survive. I didn't know I was hosting till like 20 minutes ago when Arnoldo said I can't make it. So we're just here, man. I'm just trying to make sure things go smooth.
Arnoldo's probably under the covers right now, bro. Like that's probably what he's doing.
Yeah, no kidding. All right, let's get going. Edgar, I'm gonna read for the first time your outline. Why don't you share with us the first part of this outline?
Yeah, absolutely. So we're going to kick it off with the men's Tigres versus Mazatlan recap. Football returned to the most passionate stadium in Mexico as Tigres hosted Mazapan in match day number 2. The first 45 minutes seemed rather dull, but the team was able to still secure 3 points in a match that ended 2-1, with goals from Chuy Garza and Nando Goriaran, or in Hugo Gonzalez's own goal, as it was registered. While the results are good, there's still work to be done with the roster. Why is Gignac still not starting, and why is Ibanez still on the squad? Let's discuss.
I'll keep it a buck. I was in the middle of work. I was gone for the weekend, with my middle school kids at church, so I didn't get to watch this game completely, in the way that I wanted to. I was able to watch most of the first half and a couple chunks of the second half, but of course, my luck, I missed all the goals. Whoopity-doo.
Maybe you're the reason why we weren't scoring.
That's that's fine. I mean, I can admit that. That's fine. I was not impressed with how we were playing in the first half. I thought it was just like, It still feels like, I mean, we've talked about it, and we even talked about it last week, of like, they weren't training until like the week of, like on the field, like they were just doing like weight training and stuff. And I think a lot of that rust is still there. and individualities have been kind of the name of the game so far, specifically Chuy Garza, who I kind of want to start off with. I mean, what a fantastic 2 weeks he's had. If I'm Jesus Angulo, am I confident that I'm going to be able to slot back into that left back spot? Because Chuy's making it really hard to take that from him right now. What do you guys think
One
about
assist and 1 goal.
Yeah. Like,
Two
what do you
games.
guys think about that and just y'all's thoughts on the game generally?
So definitely he wants to take a chokehold of that position. I know we brought in other players like Osvaldo Rodriguez to compete with it, but really, Angulo has decided, or sorry, not Angulo, Garza has decided to step up and take Angulo's position. I love what I've seen from him. He's had 2 really good games, and he was, for me, honestly, the man of the match. I think he did really good defensively. The assist was just perfect. A better assist than what we get from our wingers. I think that says it all.
Alfred, what do you think?
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, I think a lot of people were not happy with Angulo's performance at the end of the season last season. So just the fact that Garza was going to get his chance, whether it was forced or not, because of Angulo's personal situation or whatever, but he's taking advantage of the opportunity. 1 goal, 1 assist. Obviously, it's you can say, hey, it was. The goal was not direct, like, it came off somebody's leg or whatever. But in the end, he's still making that attempt when the entirety of the team was not able to create any chances. Basically, what saved our asses this game was shots from outside the box.
Which, thank goodness, like, that has not been a very successful thing the last year or so. I feel like outside of Nando, it's like we haven't really had guys willing to do that because, and this is the thing that let me start with a rant. Okay, this is one of my biggest beefs with modern football, modern soccer. Everybody just wants to like pass their way into the goal. We need more long shots. We need more like special moments like that, and we don't get those as often, I feel like, as we used to.
That's the venom that Guardiola put into football, man.
Exactly, and it drives me nuts, especially as somebody who watches Premier League a lot. That is what so many teams try to do, and it makes the game. It can make the game really boring, and that's not what it's supposed to be, right? So, anyway, that's enough for my rant. Yeah, I mean, here's the deal. It's early season. Like I talked about last week, this is a result that you obviously needed to get. As the rust kind of shakes off, it's nice to kind of stack the points up. We're first in the league right now, which is shocking, honestly, to have 6 points out of 6. And hopefully, as the season goes on, the rust kind of wears off and we can actually act as a cohesive unit, and maybe with some, hopefully some solid lineups, which I know we'll talk about here in a second as to what that actually should look like and people coming in and out. Hopefully that kind of creates some continuity that really we kind of need right now, because this shtick of, we're just going to rely on Nando shooting from 30 yards out and hoping he goes in, it's not going to fly every single week, and especially against the good teams. Let's be real. San Luis, they're fine. They can be a hard team. They were a hard team for us in Liguilla, obviously, but they're not the best team in the league. And Mazatlan is not even close to the best team in the league. So, like, this stuff is not going to fly against the Americas of the world, the Cruz Azuls of the world, the Tolucas of the world. That's just not going to happen. So, hopefully, getting all this out now helps out a ton. If you're watching right now, let us know what y'all think about Friday's game in the chat. That would go a long way. Okay, let's talk about the lineup. The Ibanez experiment, I'm done. It's done. It's got to be over. 2 weeks, and he has done almost nothing. Gignac, when he came in, was much more of a threat, and this is like same old story as it always has been the last like 2 years. He came in, he did stuff. He was much more of a threat. He wasn't getting any help from the wingers, but at least he was trying to do stuff individually. Yep. I know what the answer is from y'all too, that he should be starting from now on, but just kind of, I don't know, add more context to that reality.
Here's where I want to put in my 2 cents. So, obviously, and I've been vocal about it, but the performance itself, speaks for itself. His performances. We've mentioned it before, and I know that the Ibanez excusers have said, "Oh, it's because it's the wingers. Whatever wingers he's been paired up with. Because in the past, they've said, oh, Gignac has gotten the good pairings with Cordova, with Bruneta, and while Ibanez only gets, the Lineses or the Marcelos, which happened in the first game of the season. But now in the second game, he actually got the Cordoneta behind him. And what did we see? Nothing. Yes, there wasn't many opportunities created for him, but that's not the point, because there never is many opportunities created for Gignac either. He creates them himself sometimes, or if there aren't any opportunities, any balls coming to him, he goes back and looks for a ball and tries to, create, football with his feet. And that's not something we see out of Ibanez. He just stays up there in the box, hoping something will come his way, hoping the ball will find him. And when it does go his way, he just can't seem to find the net. So I've been vocal about it, and I think that, like I said, his performance speaks for itself. So I hope that this is the last we see of him, but the way things are shaping up, it seems like this is the route that Pauno's going to take, or this is the phasing out that they want to do of Gignac, as this being his last season, which is unfortunate. And I hope that in the few minutes that Gignac does get, he's able to score, to continue to shut everyone up about, how the old man needs to go, to bring somebody else, because he's been our only solution up top, despite the different players that have been brought as his replacements.
And it's just, I don't know. To me, it's really frustrating that it's very obvious that he should. He's 39 years old now, but he should still be starting. Like, I don't understand what is this like game that the front office and the coaching staff is trying to play. The only sort of situation that I think of, Notre Dame just scored, that I can maybe think of in my head is maybe they're gonna split between league and Conca whenever that gets going, but you're still a couple weeks away from that. Like, that's not something that's an issue right now, but I could see that being a thing of like maybe Gignac starts the Conca games because you want to make that more of a priority. I don't know. That's just me speculating. Edgar, what do you have to add to what Alfred just said, and how can we, I don't know what else we can ask for as far as like asking the team or asking the coaching staff in the front office to make something happen, but like, can you keep preaching to the choir that like, hey, Ibanez is not going to be the long-term solution or even the short-term solution?
Yeah, unfortunately now we're starting to see an aspect where, like, as a short-term solution, he's really not. He's a good placeholder for 15 or 20 minutes coming in as a sub, but at that point, you don't really expect much out of him. You don't see it when he's in the starting 11. You don't see it when he is coming off the bench. So unfortunately, it pains me to say we're moving on from the wrong player. Gignac, regardless of how old he is, he's still contributing more with the same wingers, really, truly, and honestly. I think Alfred made the point perfectly. We're getting more out of Gignac than we are out of Ibanez. So it's a terrible decision on the front office and the coaching staff to keep benching Gignac. It's foolish. And if you want to experiment with another formula, I would be more receptive to that. If you wanted to try Antuna as like a center forward, which he's not, but we, outside of Gignac and Nico, we don't have options. It would really have to be Ociel or Antuna. Like, if you wanted to try that, sure. I'd rather see that fail than continue to see Nico Ibanez in the starting lineup.
I'd rather Bruneta start as a false nine than I would Ibanez keep starting at this point.
At this moment, any of those options are probably going to give you, if not the same, better results than Ibanez. If we're being honest. How many shots on goal did Ibanez get in this game?
Let me look at it. I just pulled up FOTMOB, so give me just a second.
I watched the game.
He had 0 shots. 0.
I watched the game with Arnoldo at a bar. Shout out to Felix, who owns the Hangout Bar here in Crosby. And it was a tough game to watch, man. Just like you really couldn't see any opportunities really being created by anyone. But just the fact that you were playing with one less person having Ibanez on the field. That's how it felt. Because like he wasn't participating at all in becoming an option for Bruneta, for Cordova, or in trying to create opportunities. Not even not in build up, but not even in like corner kicks or free kicks. I mean, in those you always see the same guy coming up to head them, and that's Joaquin. How come Ibanez is not going up to get those balls? Like, I mean, if you're a striker, you're supposed to be trying to get goals,
Right.
but he doesn't seem like he's looking for him. So, like Edgar is saying, I mean, if we put Antuna there, which I mean, obviously I wouldn't want, but Antuna or Ociel, or just even if you bring up, a kid from the U20 as a placeholder, not only will they, give you minutes, the youth minutes that you need to complete, but at the same time, I mean, they're going to give you the exact same result at a minimum that Ibanez is giving you, which is 0 shots on goal at a minimum. They might get one.
Gignac had 4 in his 25
28
minutes,
25,
30,
minutes.
almost 30 minutes of play.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that says it all. That genuinely says it all. It's so frustrating, but hopefully everybody comes to their senses. I don't know. You can't say that about Pauno, man. And the more that this goes on, like if this keeps happening where Ibanez is still being the starter, the more that I'm going to believe that it's both a combination of Pauno and the front office, like saying like, hey, don't start Andre anymore.
Yep.
Because really, like, I don't know, part of me thinks that Pauno knows better, like that he knows that it should be Andre, but I think there are people talking in his ears being like, hey, let's run him out of here, which is like, it's a shame, right? We talked about it the last 2 episodes that we've recorded. It's a shame that this is how we're going to treat him on his way out.
And what's more frustrating to me, though, is with all due respect, like it's Mazatlan. It's not a Liguilla team. What's going to happen when you're playing America or even Chivas this weekend? It's a more competitive team than Mazatlan. Like, are we really going to be tolerating that from Ibanez?
No, we shouldn't. Let's talk about players that actually did good on that game. Obviously, Gorriarán was great. Obviously, Chuy was great. I didn't get to watch or keep my eye on him as much as I wanted to. How do we feel about Sebastian and his appearance? He played all 90 minutes, which I thought was really interesting, and that Bruneta was pulled in the 81st. Do we feel like he did okay in his first start of the season, and especially next to Bruneta?
For me, it was far from his best performance, but it wasn't bad. I think we saw kind of more of like a consistent Cordova than one of those games where he comes out and disappears. I think he played relatively well. Not his best game, but I think he did good.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it was a regular game. But it was, probably just collectively a regular game. I hate to say it, but yeah, I mean, I think Cordova, I think Bruneta, they're, we want to start putting them in the same boat as Ibanez, where we need to start asking the hard questions and asking them to step up, because that's the reality going forward, where if we're not going to have Gignac in the future, if we're not going to have, Carioca, Pizarro, our leaders on the field because they're retiring and the board is, making sure that they're on their way out, then who's going to step up for this team? It should be Cordova and Bruneta. And it's these performances that really just leave you frustrated, because it doesn't seem like they want to, or it doesn't seem like they're going to be capable of, because like we said, I mean, it's Mazatlan. I mean, who else are you going to show up for?
Yeah. I wish that he could do a formation change, because I feel like, I don't know, at this point, if the wingers are not providing you enough, I'd rather have an extra midfielder This is me just being
No wing play. Yep.
And I'd rather him run a 4-3-2-1 where you have 3 in front of the back 4, which that's going to be hard with the foreigner rule. But then have Bruneta and Cordova play under what we would like to be Gignac and just have combinations happen there, because I feel like you get something out of that as opposed to having the force to have another winger in Lainez out there or whoever not really playing their part, right? Like, I'd rather have the extra midfield cover, because in transition, we get killed a lot of times, I feel like, not having enough people go back, and having an extra, like, man in the middle, I think would help in that regard. I don't know. This is just me being, creative and trying to think.
No, but it's true. I mean, Pauno, as a coach, he's seeing, what his team is capable of. He sees his players in the training field. And I mean, why isn't he trying something different? At least besides bringing in Ibanez for Gignac, which, he's tried several times and it doesn't work. But, at least from Piojo Herrera, from Siboldi, we were getting attempts at different formations. We were seeing backlines of 5 or backlines of 3. They were changing it up. And I mean, Pauno just every single game just comes out with the same, just 4-3-3, and it doesn't work, or at least it hasn't worked. Not with the wingers that we currently have. Or is this the only thing that he knows how to play? I'm not sure.
Sorry, my face is reacting to the 65-yard pass that the Ohio State quarterback just threw to basically ice the game. What a throw. Oh my goodness. But yes, I agree. It's just like you're out there every day, like, try stuff. Clearly there are issues with what he's running right now, because you haven't had. When's the last time Tigres had a convincing performance?
Under Siboldi.
I mean, we could argue that in Leagues Cup we had a convincing performance versus Miami.
Yeah,
that was
that's probably the best we've ever played under Pauno.
Yeah, but I would also argue it wasn't the best Miami.
No.
And yeah, what do you mean no?
No, I mean, no, as in no, not even close to the best Miami.
Yeah, no, not even close.
Yeah.
So it wasn't the best Miami. I think the team was still carrying a little bit of momentum from the Siboldi era. Like, they weren't as how can I say it? As I don't know if it's Pauno slowing them down or if they're just erratic because they keep on repeating the same things that don't work, but it just doesn't. The team doesn't seem loose. That's something that I think is missing. Like Bruneta, Cordova, they used to play a lot more fun. You used to get a lot more joga bonito out of them. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. And now you're not. And that's frustrating. Taking the joy out of my club, of my team. Any other thoughts on players' performances on Friday? I mean, I think y'all summed it up really well, that it was just like a regular game and that nothing really happened that was super significant outside of Chewy, of course, who's been the standout player of the season so far. Any other thoughts?
I mean, Pizarro played well. I like the flexibility that we still have with him. We can just plug in Reyes in the back, move Pizarro up top, or not up top, but move him up.
Yeah. Okay. Speaking of Mazapan, the next segment that we're here to talk about involves Mazapan in some way. Edgar, please explain why.
That's right. Segment number 2, Samir Seva. The infamous Nuevo León squatter has decided it's time to be happy again and has officially parted ways with Club Tigres for now. Samir has joined Mazatlán and will leave a foreign player slot available at Tigres. However, is he the only one making an exit? Should Tigres look to offload another foreigner and make multiple moves in foreign markets this window? Let's discuss.
Okay, so via multiple of the reporters, It's official now. Like both clubs finalized it today, but he's going there on a year-long loan with an option to buy. We don't know what the number figure of that option to buy would be, but it is again an option, not an obligation. That is a difference. The after effect of that is that now we are heavily linked to a Brazilian midfielder from Internacional whose name behooves me.
Romulo Suarg.
Romulo.
Yes. So who played in that dumb friendly that they played with El Tri the other day. It's pretty much a done deal at this point. I think Vladi from TUDN came out with a video today basically saying that it's a done deal. I think the fee is like 5 million if I remember correctly, and like 80% of his rights or something. I can't remember the full specifics of that deal. He plays as a number 6 as a defensive midfielder. Hasn't had the best of seasons so far, at least this current season with Internacional. I don't know too much about him. But I think we're all happy that Samir is gone for obvious reasons, just because he was taking up that spot. And obviously his tenure ended pretty sour with just his performances and I think his attitude and all that. Would anybody like to discuss his comments that he gave to the press the other day at the airport?
Well, first I would like to thank Vuse, showing that he's still a Tigre, doing us a solid and taking taking Samir off our hands. Oh my God. I mean, a year too long or a year too late? Like, we've been trying to offload this player for the longest time now. It's felt like forever. Just having him just like Edgar said, squatting in our team, taking up a foreigner spot. And then for him to have the audacity to leave and say, "Oh, now I'm going to be happy again." Like, dude, come on. Like, seriously, you've literally made half of Nuevo León sad or mad or unhappy, during this whole time. So, like, if anybody's happy that you're leaving, it's us, not you.
Edgar, what are your thoughts on the squatter leaving and this impending arrival of Suarg?
So thank goodness he is leaving. But I will say the comment of "it's time to be happy again" is really triggering to me personally, because he had 6 months to try to be happy at Tigres when, it was essentially made clear to him, hey, we're not happy with your performance. You're not living up to the expectations. We're going to separate you from the squad. And, he was on his way out 6 months ago. The only reason he stayed was because Quiñones raised his hand and said, you know what, I want to leave. And so he had 6 months to try to turn it around, try to earn a spot on this team. And instead he did nothing.
Yeah, all he did last season was start in that friendly here in Dallas. That was his last ever appearance for Tigres at the Cotton Bowl in a meaningless game.
Yeah, and it was nothing. It was nothing to like write home about. It was a very average game for him. Like, he did not look better than any of his previous performances before that.
It's just it's so interesting, like the fall from grace that he's had. Because I think we all wanted him to have longer term success. Even like the last season under Siboldi, like he wasn't like, I mean, he was starting to get bad, but like there were a couple flashes here and there where he had, solid moments. The Mazatlan game, speaking of, for example, when Marcelo had the brace and he scored a goal and all that. That was a good moment for him. But it's just so funny, like looking at his career path. This guy started a Premier League game at Old Trafford, where Man United plays, like 3 or 4 years ago with Watford, and now he's playing for Mazapan. Like, what a weird arc for him, just like as a player, and just kind of a bummer, to be honest. But as far as like our team goes, from a business perspective, like this was probably the best that you can get. I kind of wish it was an obligation to buy instead of an option to buy, because who knows what could happen in a year, and maybe we have another headache on our hands at this time next year. Hopefully not. Fingers crossed, obviously. Hopefully hopefully he gets a stock up in Mazatlan and somebody in Brazil is like, hey, come home. Come back home to our league, and maybe something like that would happen. We'll see. hopefully we get some activity outside of Swarg. I'm going to keep saying it. I think I said it a couple weeks ago. I mean, you got to offload somebody else. And I know that the Carioca rumor was going crazy last week, but can we please find somewhere else for Ibanez? Because after these last 2 weeks, he's really been disappointing. I'd rather have that be the solution than Carioca, where it's like, Carioca's gone at 6 months. Like, I'd rather still have him around. And look at the emotional and vibes boost that him and Gignac gave to the team and the whole stadium on Friday. I mean, I've watched countless videos of just the roar when they came in and just how good it was for everybody on the field for those two guys to step into that moment in a game that hadn't been fully changed yet. Like, I don't think Chewy scored until after they came on. Like, just what that brought to the fan base, what that brought to the team, it made everything flow a little bit better. That's part of the reason why you keep Carioca right now. Like, none of this nonsense of like, oh, he's going to leave this week. Like, no, I don't want any of that. Like, we have other people that we can move around on the roster to get somebody else in. And I think that'd be much more beneficial. Thoughts? Agree? Disagree?
No, I agree. I think you have an excellent point and great idea, Dennis. I wish the front office would listen to you. I mean, at this moment, if we offload Carioca, I mean, we're already bringing in Romulo Swarg as a CMD, right? Central defensive midfielder, CDM. And we're pretty much already alternating Pizarro in there as well. So if you get rid of Carioca, who are you going to bring? You'd have to bring somebody in the defense, somebody in the back line, right? But that other option that you mentioned, I think would be even more interesting. If we offload Ibanez, bring in a potentially good striker, which, like we just mentioned, that anybody else would practically be at least at the same level of Ibanez of 0 shots on goal. But at this point, bringing anybody else up top could really be a morale boost, not just for the team, but for the whole fan base. I mean, you get rid of Samir, you bring in, somebody to help Carioca and Gorriarán in the midfield. You're still able to use Pizarro to go back and play with Joaquim or in the midfield. And then you have a new striker come up and potentially, give us hope that he's going to be Guignac's replacement. Like, he could just completely change, the whole perspective. So I wish they would go that route, but given that, it's a clear sign what they're, they've already said, or several media has said that because it's the goodbye season for some of our experienced players, that they might as well get rid of all of them, except for maybe Aquino, who was renewed for a year, right?
Yeah. I mean, here's the other angle that I have about this whole thing. Look at what everybody else has done in the league, especially in the context of Leon bringing in James Rodriguez. Bomba signing, right? Who knows what's going to happen, but like on name alone, on his history alone, that's a Bomba signing. Where's that for Tigres, right? Like, how are we going to respond to that? Where's our own Bomba? No disrespect to Zwarg, but nobody really knows anything about him as far as we know, right? Like, obviously people from Brazil could help us out. And if you do know anything about him, if you're watching, let us know in the chat. But let's be realistic. That's not the Bomba. Where is that Bomba coming from? Because that's really what this team needs at this point. That's what the club needs at this point. You really haven't had that since Florian, right? Like, you haven't had a Bomba since Florian. That's been 4 years now. Where is that going to come from? I feel like, obviously, you don't want to like make a decision, an emotional decision or something that could hurt you in the future. But like, you need to respond in a big way if you're the front office, if you're the club, with your own Bomba after watching what everybody else has done and improve. Otherwise, we're going to get left behind. And I don't think you should wait until the legends leave to do that. I think you can find ways to do that right now while they're still here and even make the transition a little bit more seamless. But that requires logic and having a brain. I don't know if people in charge have that. But that's just me. Any other thoughts?
Kind of feeding off onto that, from the little bit that I know and that I've heard, the objective is to kind of, I think, definitely bring in a Bomba, but for the summer transfer window when it's a little bit more feasible.
Right.
And from what I've also heard, our front office did ask for Andre Silva if he would be interested in joining Liga MX. I don't think they ever made an offer. Thankfully, the answer was no, because that's honestly just the European version of Nico Ibanez. I could
He's
speak
not
on that.
good. He's not good.
He is not. He had everything to thrive at AC Milan. He didn't, and anywhere else for that matter that he's played. I think he's just been a very Nico Ibanez type of player. The only difference is he's Portuguese.
That rumor made no sense to me, but it is what it is. My question for y'all, is this it for transfer activity? Swarg just comes in and that's it, or is anybody else leaving or coming in?
I think so. There's people still out there, saying, "Oh, let Gerardo Torrado cook." Come on, what can you expect out of Gerardo Torrado? I mean, to bring us, another scrub from Cruz Azul and line his pockets, because that's what he did last season, right? We can't say for sure, that Romulo Swarg is a product of Gerardo Torrado's work, because he might have already been, in the books as a potential hire. So in the end, I mean, I think that this is it. I don't think we're gonna see anything bigger or anything of importance from outside of our local market or local league. If anything else comes, it might be just another Mexican from our league, just to, I don't know, because I mean, to add depth, at this moment, you don't need more Mexicans for depth.
Edgar?
Yes, I agree. I think from the international market, it's going to be very difficult. You would have to definitely offload another foreign player. Carioca was rumored as the obvious answer just because there's very little time left on his contract. But, I mean, as far as finding a club for him, it's easier said than done. And I also think he would just rather leave for free, and anyone would rather take it for free if they just have to wait 5 or 6 months. But I know Efrain Alvarez was rumored for a little bit. I don't think he'd contribute much, and that's definitely not a... It would be a good long-term signing, but it wouldn't be much to get hype about this season.
Yeah, he's not the type of guy that you build around immediately.
No.
He's young. And honestly, his development hasn't been that great. Really, he shouldn't be playing in the Mexican League. He was at Galaxy, if I'm thinking of him correctly. He was at LA Galaxy, seemed to be going fine there. But that guy needs to be out of North America playing somewhere else, and he's not. And that's not a good that's not a green flag for me. That's a red flag for me personally. But anywho, I assume nothing is going to happen at this point, even though I would like for some stuff to happen, more things. But I'm just going to assume that Swarg is going to come in, and hopefully he does well, because for our sake, we hope he does great. We'll see how he does with Corriaran, or being next to Corriaran, I assume. All right. Femenil. Weird week for them. Really weird week for them. They played earlier today. We'll talk about that obviously here in a second, but Edgar kind of laid the groundwork for this very funky start for the girls.
Absolutely. Fuera Pedro ? There's new challenges with the new face in the Amazonas manager's chair. With 2 more matches having gone by, Tigres Femenil continues to struggle to deliver favorable results. Can this be attributed to the growing pains the team will face this season, or are the absences of key players still hurting results?
So I think the latter.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I just think the latter. I mean, obviously, Mari Carmen Reyes, I think, played a big role in our squad last season. And just the fact that she's out, pretty much the entire season. Yes, there are pieces that have been brought in, but they're still, barely getting used to the city. It's not it's not like we can expect yet anything out of the signings have come in. The girl we talked about in the last pod or anything like that. I mean, I'm pretty sure she's gonna get her opportunity, or she has to try to get her minutes in. But they're not right now a short-term solution, right? The short-term solution is use what you have, or use the players that are ready or that have been here, that are used to playing with the squad. And so that means bringing in and putting in players in positions that aren't their best. And then on top of that, you had, I think, Anika Rodriguez as well, who's missing, who's been pretty much, you could even say that she's been the captain without an armband. At least last season she showed it. She was probably the player with the most grit, with the most determination, with the most garra, the most perfil tigre on the field in each and every day. So she's missed on the field. And then you have on top of that some of our key players that are still rusty. They're still getting used to whatever's going on in the training field, whether it's something different or not, that Pedro's bringing in. We can't really at this moment fault Pedro or say, hey, what's going on? It's too early. I'd give it a few more weeks.
Yeah, obviously it's frustrating because we know what this team is capable of. We know what to expect with this team. We have very high expectations. That's the culture that's been set ever since the inception of the Femenil team. But it is a little frustrating knowing that things can be better. I think at this point, I don't know if it's going to be like this the whole season, but if it is, maybe this is something you have to ride out and hope that things just kind of peak at the right time, especially towards the end when you have Liguilla, when you have Conca, the semifinals. Like, that's kind of what you hope for. Obviously, those two, Mari Carmen and Anika, are big misses, and especially from that midfield perspective, like, again, I'll sound like a broken record, but like, that is so much more important. Not that Anika's not important, but like, Mari Carmen's absence is much more impactful, and you can just tell just because Nayeli Rangel just isn't at that same level, unfortunately, and she's trying her best. Like, I don't fault her for her effort, but it's just not the same, and maybe that's why you react to that injury by bringing in Aaliyah Farmer from USC, who I hope does well. Like, I did a little bit of research on her and seems to be a pretty decent player. We have a good eye for scouting college players here in the U.S., and hopefully that turns out to be another successful thing, because for the sake of our team, that could go a long way, and we'll see how she gets integrated into the squad. But the fact that the most exciting thing about Femenil this week was the Wonder Woman kit collection dropping. It's not super ideal, but I mean, I guess this is just how it goes. Thankfully, Thembi and Ovalle saved us today from another defeat.
Do you guys see the color combination they wore today with the blue on top?
Yeah, blue and the yellow shorts. Yeah,
I've never really liked that combination, but it was interesting to see. I don't know if we'll have to check with Tigres jersey on Twitter if the Femenil has done that in the past, because I know the men have done that before, but I don't recall the Femenil doing that.
I don't remember it being that way. Like, we saw it on Friday where the men had the inverse of
that's the normal, the yellow blue short.
Yeah, but like, I haven't seen that the way you just described it in a while on either team. So yeah, that was pretty interesting. But shout out to Thembi and Ovalle for, again, saving us and at least getting us a point. That's what, 4 points out of 4 games?
Ooh. Yeah,
not great.
1 win, 2 draws, and a loss, right?
No, 2 losses.
1 win, 1 draw, so that's 3 points and
that's right.
2 losses.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah, 2 losses, both at home. Haven't won at home yet.
Yikes.
Not great. Edgar, what do you have to add to that with Femenil?
I mean, not much really. The only advantage about tonight was, at halftime we were down 2-0, and we were able to turn it around and get 2-2. Individual performances, of course. Thembi, Ovalle. Kind of still
And it
feels
was an
like
away game.
What was that?
And it was an away game.
Yeah, it was an away game. It was a game on the road where delivering that sort of result's a little bit more challenging. I think that's really the only positives that we have from tonight. But yeah, it kind of still feels like Mila Martinez is in the shadows in the background.
I did appreciate that there was some urgency from Pedro, like in this game, to really change stuff. Looking back at what he did at halftime, like you go down 2-0. Honestly, I don't know if Mila would have changed much, but he definitely changed stuff. I mean, he brought in Mayor, he brought in Montoya, and he brought in Aligol, to kind of just see what would happen. And obviously, things got better because you don't score 2 goals and not get better in a half, right? So I do appreciate that he's at least more proactive as far as like making changes and trying to fix things, as opposed to what Mila was doing, because she would always time them wrong or not make enough or not make any, that sort of thing. So at least there's some positivity in that regard of like, okay, like this is a trend that hopefully continues with him, and that he's able to, use his experience and uses his coaching like brain to make those decisions consistently here, like in and out.
I'm just happy to not have to see Mila's confused face in games, like she didn't know what was going on or what she was doing or where she was. Like, I'm just happy that we're not having to see that anymore.
Yeah, I agree. Any other thoughts? I didn't get to watch any of today's game. I caught a little bit of the game on Thursday last week, but not too much of that one either. Just kind of men performances. Feels very similar to the men.
January. That's how it feels like. January soccer.
Yeah. It's been cold down in Mexico too. Who do they have next? Do we know?
So Tigres Femenil.
I know the
Toluca
us.
Toluca for the girls at home
on Sunday. Yeah.
I assume at home.
Yeah, so men's, we play Guadalajara. We play Chivas on Saturday at 7. And then Tigres Femenils plays Toluca on Sunday at 7. And then Tigres Varonil, remember, next week is a doubleheader. So we actually get to play again on Tuesday against Tijuana.
Yeah, this like after or starting on Saturday is the 2 games a week. Because now you have that Tijuana game, the Toluca game, and then Conca, already back. So
maybe going back to what you were saying earlier, Dennis, maybe we're gonna start seeing Gignac and Ibanez alternating.
I hope so.
I mean, maybe that's what's happening. You might be right, and where Ibanez will play against Guadalajara, maybe, or backwards. Gignac will play against Guadalajara, and then Ibanez will play against Tijuana.
Yeah, hopefully so.
Yeah.
I would really like that. When is the last game for 3 of these dumb friendlies that they're doing? Is that this week?
For who?
Isn't that today or tomorrow?
I think so. I just want to know if like Tapia's going to be back, if Fulgencio is going to be back, like our guys that are out there doing that.
So El Tri actually plays tomorrow at 6. So I assume they'd be back in the States Wednesday. Probably not playing Saturday.
Yeah, probably not. Yeah, and they're playing River. They're playing River tomorrow too, which is they'll probably get the break speed off of them, to be honest.
Have you guys kept up? I mean, has Fulgencio gotten any minutes or?
I didn't get to see any of that game that they played last week, to be honest.
He did. Full disclosure, I actually kind of paid more attention to that game than the Amazonas game because they were losing, and I did not want to see that. So he did get a couple minutes in. Nothing great, but nothing terrible.
Okay. Interesting. Do you guys want to talk about this Gignac to MLS kind of rumor that kind of was popping out
I
earlier.
do not want to entertain any type of rumors of Gignac leaving Tigres. I just can't. I can't handle it. If y'all want to talk about it, I'll sit this one out.
No, that's fine. I mean, I don't really want to either. I just know that that's kind of not making the rounds yet, but there's some smoke in the air.
I'm gonna ignore it until. I'm just gonna ignore it.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Do we have any from the vault moments?
I did not come across any, but before we close out the pod, do we have predictions for the Tigres Chivas game?
Yes, we should do that. Short pod tonight. Probably helps that, it's just three of us. I don't. Like I said, I wasn't prepared to host until about an hour ago, so I can't ramble like I usually do. Anywho, I'll go first. Kind of smells like a draw, to be honest. I'm gonna say 1-1.
I would agree with you. I think typically we don't do that well at OmniLife, and on top of that, you add that that we're not playing that well or well at all. Like I see a 1-1 as well. I mean, there's nothing exciting, nothing for us to like really be hopeful for. I hope that the only thing I can hope for is that Pulido, gets injured a minute into the game or a minute into walking onto the field or something. He pulls a Salcedo.
Bro, okay, I've totally forgot about that. That is so, bro. The fact that they announced like his arrival to the team with a statement announcing his injury it's just absolutely insane.
Beyond hilarious, bro. Beyond
so
hilarious.
crazy, so crazy. Okay, Edgar,
Shout out to the Twitter Tigres. I don't even know what to call them, but those that are idolizing Salcedo like some huge big idol of ours went to Rayados. Come on. Salcedo doesn't even come close to making our Legends pyramid.
The
Not
thing
even close.
And Salcedo though is like you can't even be mad at him. Like that's just a very on-brand move for him. Like
him.
He has no loyalty to any team. Like I mean, if America were knocking on the door, he would have gone to America, and he played for Chivas. I don't think he would have cared.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
When he was here, he was trying to leave, and then he was like, "Oh, wait a minute, I want to come back." Like, no.
Yeah. Hey, never forget his Club World Cup final performance, though. I'll never forget that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, no hate on Salcedo. Don't get me wrong. No hate on Salcedo. He gave us, a couple of good years with, some decent performances, more inconsistency than not. And, obviously off the field as well, he was just a nuisance. But
he's just a clown, bro. That's all it is.
Yeah, he's a clown. I mean, but you can't hate on him. But at the same time, like, be all like, oh, an idol of ours playing with Ray. No, come on. No, not even close.
Yeah.
Palmera Rivas, bigger idol.
That's right. Okay, Edgar, what's your prediction?
So you just reminded me, I don't think we've won at OmniLife since the final with Siboldi. So now I got to think about my answer, but I think we can get 3 points, but it'll have to be a 1-0.
Yeah. Something tells me, I mean, Chivas is not playing particularly well either, and they've got some guys in and out through injury. Like, I think Mozo is not going to play, if I remember correctly, because I know he's out. But that's always been one of those tougher games. Although the last time we played there last season, it wasn't at the OmniLife. It was at somewhere else, if y'all remember that, when Marcelo scored at the very end, and somebody else scored. I think Ibanez maybe scored that day. That was not at the OmniLife. That was at some other stadium. So you're right. Like, that specific stadium, like, we haven't won in forever since the final. So who knows? I don't know. Like, it feels weird to be saying that about the only team in the league that's gone 6 for 6 as far as points goes. But again, you can only play who's in front of you, and the competition has not been that stiff so far. But it's going to get stiffer. So
Yeah, for sure.
Any last thoughts before we get out of here under an hour?
Are you guys gonna buy the Wonder Woman collection?
I'm tempted to get the jersey, bro. The jersey looks really great.
We saw Nahuel wear it on Friday.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a lot nicer than the Amazonas kit, the green one that came out.
Oh yeah,
I'm not a fan of it.
I don't
Same
know how
here.
I feel about the sweatshirt. I think it's cool. Not my favorite color.
I'm gonna say it looks like a caquita gold.
Bingo! You took the words right out of my mouth.
Like I will say, it's really nice, but if you compare it to, for example, the sweater Alfred's wearing, or Dennis, your other originals, the
The
windbreaker,
windbreaker, yeah.
yeah, or even the blue, the zip up, those are much better options in my opinion.
Yeah.
Or the reversible jacket that they came up with.
That's
yeah,
right.
like
Yeah,
think
the I don't know, the one that he just got
Yes.
for like $400.
Ouch.
That is an expensive endeavor. Also, I'm thinking at the end if anybody wants to buy that, but that's a 5,000 pesos. Do the conversion on your own.
right. Shout out to Arnoldo. We missed him this episode, but we're gonna keep the tally on our not bets, but on our predictions for the season. I still say that Joaquim is gonna score more headers than Ibanez, and I don't think that Antuna is gonna give us those 4 assists that he mentioned.
Yeah.
Does he start on Saturday?
I don't know.
Who knows?
He should
At
have.
this point, we really it's a coin toss with Pauno. Like, we don't know who he's playing with. We don't know why he's playing with who. Like, it's just a guessing game.
Yeah, his
Sorry.
His
Sorry.
lineups are much more difficult to predict. I mean, besides Nahuel in goal, and even then, that one's gonna be. He's randomly just gonna bench Nahuel when we least expect it. It's not gonna be against a lower table team. He's just gonna randomly.
If he keeps the idea of like rotating all the wingers until he finds someone, then we might see Ozzy start this game,
Yeah,
which I wouldn't be against.
I wouldn't be against either. I'd rather have him plus the BCG. Just those are our
There
4
you go.
best attackers. And it's always been that way. I mean, the surefire starters, I mean, you can probably just count them on one hand, right? Like, it's Nahuel, it's
Guido.
it's Guido, it's Aquino, it's Corriaran, and Joaquin.
Joaquin.
That's it.
Yeah.
Everybody else is up for.
I would add Brunetta as a for sure starter as well.
Okay.
That's a
Okay.
6th for
Yeah.
sure start.
Okay. But everybody else, yeah. I mean, like we mentioned earlier, like Garza's playing so well that you have to consider him as the starter right now over Angulo. And I think until proven otherwise, you should say that because he's been awesome. And that's the way a fullback should be.
Yeah.
Good in attack and good in defense, and who can put in a banger of a cross and can score when he needs to. Not that Angulo can't do that, but he just can't do it as consistently as Garza can.
True that.
Anything else?
Think that's all we got.
All we got. All you Houston homies, stay warm.
We will. We'll see if we survive tonight.
Yeah, now maybe like I was telling you earlier before we started recording, maybe you guys will get similar to what we got a couple weeks ago here in DFW.
But
but
10
we'll see.
minutes ago, it was hailing. Like, I could hear it.
Oh,
It doesn't
well,
hail.
we
so.
didn't. Well, we didn't get that 2 weeks ago, so that's different.
Yeah.
All right. Well, if you're watching right now, thanks for being here. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode. If you're listening on podcast later on, thanks for being here as well. Don't forget to follow us at La U Times, whether it's Insta, whether it's TikTok. Now that it's not banned, what a dumb.
We need to open up a red note.
No, please. We didn't have to. We do not need to give our information to China more than we already have. YouTube, subscribe to us, especially for live stream purposes, and Twitter for live stream purposes. We're on Spotify. We're on Apple for podcasts. We're on everything else on podcasts. If you're a Spotify listener, comment directly on the episode. Goes a long way. Edgar has done that for my show, and you should do it for our show. Follow us all individually. Edgar's at Double L Nation. Alfred's at Tigres Takes. I'm just at my name, my full name. And don't forget to follow Lou as well, Tigres_English, because we miss our
We miss
coach,
you, Lou.
Coach Pop. Hope he comes back next week. We will be back next week, probably Monday or Tuesday, as we always are, to recap the games this weekend, and hopefully we'll get some more news as we inch closer and closer to February. Till next time, y'all stay safe out there, stay warm, stay well, stay healthy. Arriba la U. And we'll talk to you guys next week.